All right, so in this video, we're going to cover becoming the master of your fate by understanding these 4 levels of mind. If this is your first time watching my videos, I'm glad that you are here. And as you know, I am a mindset, energetics, and manifestation coach who works with spiritually centered leaders and emerging leaders access their untapped potential and manifest results with greater ease and in less time. For those of you who don't know, I was a nurse for 20 years before this stage of my life, being a coach. And I've experienced being, doing very well and being Employee of the Year, landing jobs immediately due to my skill as a nurse and the demand for nursing in the marketplace. And I left all of that because deep down inside, I knew that there was so much more for me to expand and grow into. And it wasn't in that industry anymore. So after a lot of soul searching, which I'm sure a lot of you are actually doing, which is why you're drawn to this material. And after doing some soul searching and doing my own personal development work, I left and went into business full time. And prior to leaving, I had the privilege of being mentored by 7-figure business owners who took me under their wing and guided me along my entrepreneurial journey. And my mentors have had extensive backgrounds in studying personal development, on average, minimum 15 years of deep study and application. And even with getting access to great mentors and leaders, I would still experience something called the knowing doing gap. And it looked something like this, and maybe you can relate. I would study books, I would attend seminars, and I would attend meetings and company conventions. I did exactly as my mentors told me to do because I was always coachable and I had such a deep desire to change my life. I invested the time and money into my own personal development. Yet what I was making in business was very far from replacing my job income. And one day, and this was the big aha moment for me, one day my husband brought something to my attention, and it went something like this. He said, "Honey, it's great that you're studying all these things, but why aren't you implementing everything you know?" Now, how did my husband know that I wasn't implementing everything that I knew? It was showing in my results. Can you relate to what I am describing to you here right now? That you study a lot, you learn a lot about how to do things, but you find yourself procrastinating. You can't seem to get to the things you need to do, the key things that will actually build your business. The knowing doing gap does not only apply to business. It could be that there's a knowing doing gap with your relationships or getting into the physical level of fitness that you've always wanted, right? The knowing doing gap is very common. Don't feel bad about it. What I would encourage you to do is get empowered to understand it so you can change it. And to understand the knowing doing gap, you must understand the mind in relation to behavior. And in this video, I want to give you an overview of the mind so you understand yourself more. And that's the most important thing. This is especially for the leaders out there and the emerging leaders, because the more you understand yourself, you can examine yourself, your own internal breakthroughs, and transform yourself, the more you will understand the people that you lead, and you can help them more effectively. And it's beyond telling them what to do. When we talk about the mind, we're not referring to the brain, by the way. I want to make this clarification right now. The brain is an instrument of the mind. It's a part of your nervous system. It's a part of your physical body. But what we're really talking about is consciousness. Mind is movement. So we're talking about the movement of consciousness. And what do we mean by consciousness? We're talking about awareness, and we have different levels of awareness. So we have a conscious level of mind, right? We have the subconscious level of mind. We have the unconscious level of mind and the superconscious level of mind. And you see, these different levels of consciousness are always interplaying with one another. We just need to be consciously aware of what's happening. So we're empowered along our journey of creating a reality that we want in life, personally, and in business. Because on any given day, On average, a person goes through 70,000 thoughts, and majority of those thoughts, between 95 to 98% of those thoughts, are coming from the subconscious and unconscious level of mind, and it's dictating about 98% of what you do on any given day. So thoughts, whether they are conscious or not, determine what you actually do. And what you actually do and the energy that you are in and what you do determines the results that you get. So let's get into it. We're looking at 4 major levels of mind. The conscious level of mind is very, very surface level of awareness or consciousness. It's the part of our thinking that deals with the outer world, meaning it's our connection with our 5 senses, right? The taste, the seeing, the hearing, the feeling, as well as our smell. All of that, these 5 levels of our senses. That's our connection to the outer world. The consciousness has to deal with, again, the outward, right? And this has to deal with our logic and our book learning. This is our intellect. This level of consciousness tends to be the most praised in mainstream society. I think you would agree with this, right? Because there's a belief. The belief is that the more that we gather information, we learn intellectually, the situation should improve. A lot of us actually fall into this belief. But the truth is, on the conscious level, the intellectual level of thinking, it only makes up about 2 to 5% of our total thinking. Therefore, it will only affect about 2 to 5% of our behavior and therefore our results. And when I teach this to leaders, they are actually very shocked, okay? So if we were to make an analogy of the conscious level of thinking in terms of, let's say, a computer, right? And we all have our own programming. We can say that the conscious level of mind can process about 40 bits of information. So keep that in mind. And now let's go into the subconscious level of mind. Sub meaning below, not inferior, just below the surface of conscious level of consciousness of mind. Now, the subconscious mind, along with the unconscious mind, you can use these interchangeably, but there are distinctions. I'm going to go into it. This is responsible for 95 to 90% of what we do on any given day. And we all have beliefs on the subconscious level that we may not be consciously aware of, right? But it is determining our energy, our vibe. It's determining about 90% of what we do and therefore controls 90% of our results. The subconscious mind shapes our worldview, right? Remember how we see the world not as what it truly is, but we see the world as we are, right? So the subconscious mind will shape our logic and our ability to even accept abundance, give abundance, right? It shapes our ability in terms of love, experiencing love, everything that you could think of, wealth, and health, okay? Now, the interesting thing is the subconscious mind has been programmed ever since, right, even before, I'll go into the unconscious in a bit, even before we were born. Our subconscious level of thinking is already being programmed by the time we were in our mother's wombs. Think about that. Up until anything that we were exposed to as children, up until the age of 6, was programming us subconsciously. And there's a science behind that. It has to deal with our brain waves, but I'm not going to go into that right now. So just know that the subconscious mind is known as the emotional mind. That's a huge clue for you. Take note of that. The subconscious mind is known as the emotional mind and is considered the all power. Really think about that. The subconscious mind is like raw all power. I mean, think about the sun as being like, solar power, right? The wind is wind power. It's just power, raw. Electricity everywhere. Until we harness it, we don't use it. But it's there. It's all power. There's even power in a horse, right? But until we harness that horsepower, it's just raw power. So I want you to think that your subconscious mind is just all power. It's raw. So like any other form of raw power, it needs to be harnessed and conscientiously utilized, right? And how do we do that? It's directed by the conscious level of thinking. And The subconscious, unconscious level of thinking can be directed super consciously as well. So I want you to take note that I will go into the the super conscious level of thinking in a bit. Just know that the subconscious, this is very important, it does not take a joke. So even if you don't mean something, but you're repetitiously saying it, right? Your subconscious mind over time, because of the repetition, will take it on as truth, and it will become physical reality. So this is a very, very important thing for us to understand, because look at all the repetitious things that we are exposed to. Think about it. Music, mass media, news, you see, advertisements. Whatever we are always being exposed to regularly with repetition is programming us subconsciously. Okay. Now, the superconscious mind, super meaning above or beyond, this is the level of mind that is related to what has been coined as infinite intelligence or universal mind. I want you to think of the universe, right, as one big, huge brain. And each one of our levels of consciousness, right, our individual brains is like one neuron in this massive one mind. Everything is interconnected. And the truth is, we are all interconnected unconsciously and all interconnected subconsciously. There's only one mind. Everything is interconnected. So the superconscious has also been coined as the quantum field, or you can say source energy. Everyone has access to superconscious mind. No one can be cut off from superconscious mind, right? You don't have to be a priest or a monk necessarily to connect with superconscious mind, right? Because this is related to like more of the divine parts of ourselves. Everyone actually has access. It just has to be made aware of and conscientiously connected with. What is required for an individual to understand that there is a superconscious level of consciousness in order to develop the more spiritual side of the personality? That is what is required. The cultivation of the more spiritual side of your personality. You can say that the superconscious is a part of you that is considered as your higher self. Your higher self inherently knows the superconscious. So you can think of the superconscious as like this intelligence that has all of the knowledge of everything that is needed in the world. It has all the knowledge of what is needed to physically manifest, let's say a technology or a solution. You can think of any problem, and the superconscious has a solution. Think about that. Really think about that. The superconscious mind is what all geniuses like Einstein and Da Vinci, like Tesla, naturally tapped into because they had connection with this all knowledge. You can also tap into your own genius by linking with superconscious mind, right? I'm going to give you a hint. I'm not going to go into it right now in this video, but the hint is, if you were to go to Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talked about the superconscious mind and linking with it by describing the true account of a Mr. Gates. I always remember that name because I think about, the famous Gates in today's time. There's a Mr. Gates that would go into meditation and tap into superconscious level of thinking. Okay. Read that part in Think and Grow Rich. So this is a big hint also. When the superconscious mind directs the all power in the subconscious and unconscious mind, that's where the exponential growth or quantum leaps happen. Okay, so I'm going to go into the unconscious mind in just a little bit. This is the fourth we're going to go into, and not the least at all. It's just the last I'm going to go over in this video. The unconscious mind. Let's look at un, which means not. Very interesting, right? So we're talking about a level of consciousness or level of awareness that is so not on the radar. I mean, it is so on the down low, okay? Really not in the conscious level of thinking. It's similar to the subconscious mind, But it's not just under the conscious level of thinking. It's many layers deeper. And why is this so? Because we're talking about DNA, guys. We're talking about ancestral programming. Scientifically, if someone were to look at a person's DNA, the coding within the DNA goes back about 5 generations. And if you were to look at the RNA genetic makeup of a person, it goes back 50 generations. So we're talking about programming from our ancestral lines that go back between 5 to 50 generations. So we're talking about there are hidden memories. There are hidden decisions that our ancestors made that we have inherited through our DNA and our RNA. Do you understand? There are hidden traumas. There are hidden personalities as well that we hold in our unconscious minds. Hidden trauma identities as well. Just know this, that the unconscious mind is all about survival and protection. Okay, so the unconscious mind, if you ever have thought about like what is actually controlling the blood flow in my veins, in my cardiovascular system, it's actually your unconscious level of mind that's doing that. It's all about survival. So it's this level of consciousness that keeps the body functioning without you having to consciously think about it. Like you don't have to consciously think about your stomach digesting. You see, it's completely automatic. So along with the subconscious level of mind, so we're talking about subconscious and unconscious level of mind, we're looking at, if we were to give ourselves like analogy of being a computer, that level of mind processes 40 million bits of information versus the conscious level that process only 40 bits versus 40 million bits of information, right? On the subconscious and unconscious level. So this part of us is so massive and is directing our fate, you see? That's why when we want to become a master of our fate, the captain of our soul, we have to awaken to these things, and we have to know how do we navigate these levels of mind as we take our journey towards manifesting what we want. Another really interesting fact is that the unconscious and subconscious mind communicates through the body. Just take note of what I'm saying here. And I know this is a lot. You may need to watch this video several times to get the full gist of what I am saying here. But now you have a very good foundation of understanding, right? Which means you are empowered more so than like probably about 95% of the world's population. So good job on finishing this video. Very proud of you. So I want to end this video by saying that when someone is taking a transformative journey, it begins with creating the new model on the conscious level using your higher mental tools. Watch my video on that. But transformation does not stop there. The new narrative, the new identity, and the new belief system, the new energetics behind that reality associated with the new model needs to be programmed on the subconscious and unconscious level. So here's another hint. Take note of this, and it will make sense to you in the near future, especially when you repetitiously learn this material. That when we talk about unconscious level of belief, right, and programming on that level, we're talking about embodiment. Remember I told you that the unconscious is related to the body, so we're talking about embodiment. Take note of that. Once programming is sufficiently done, there will be a change in behavior and also a change in your whole energy. So there will be a change in what you actually attract to you, and therefore the results will change. I hope you got a lot of value from this video. Leave a comment below on your greatest takeaway, your greatest ahas. You can leave your questions as well. Remember to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you soon in the next video.